stems in there. All right, so we see the colors starting to come together. So we're going to take our collard greens, throw those in.
And you can see how fine that is chopped out.
Let's see if I can show it.
Yeah, it's very fine. And while he is going to primarily saute, if you like your greens a little bit more tender, you could also put in maybe a half a cup of chicken stock and put a lid on it and just let it sort of wilt down.
Yeah. So as tender as you like, the color you like, if you like the, as they call it in the South, pot liquor, you can cook it a little longer, then you can drink some of that.
Yeah.
And you, I don't know if you can see this, but the greens have now turned a particularly beautiful shade of green, and that's what a little bit of heat does to the chlorophyll that's in green vegetables. When you cook them a little too long, and a lot of times we'll add like a vinegar, they'll start to go a little like army green on you.
So with that being said, in Carolina or down south, they like to add a little vinegar to their greens, and we're gonna do some hot sauce to the recipe to give it a little flavor.
Yeah, we love our hot sauce.
Yeah, we do.
And that'll help tenderize it and give it a, instead of adding black pepper.
Spicy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Give you some of that, and then now we have. I like that. I just recently started using this. Pink Himalayan salt.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to add a little bit of this to it. One cool thing about pink Himalayan salt, outside of the typical salt that we serve, that we can buy in a grocery store, is that it has more minerals in it. We want to find ways when we're cooking and developing our own recipes. We want to get as many vitamins and minerals that we can get.
Absolutely. So you use that at home?
Oh yeah, that's a staple now. That's a staple.
If you are someone who has been diagnosed with high blood pressure or hypertension, you still need to watch your salt. So pink Himalayan or Morton's, you still need to watch your salt. Wherever water goes, salt will follow. So this is why you'll get a little bit of bloating if you eat a very salty meal, because water is just following that salt. It will leave the inside of your cell and it will come outside, and that's why you'll get that sort of bloated feeling or that bloated look. So what you want to do with that is drink lots of water.
So if you can see it from here, this
That looks delicious. And does it not smell delicious?
No.
Again, you can always put a lid on it and let it sort of wilt down a little bit more, but this is how I like my collard greens. I like a little shoe.
Yes. So this is kind of a homage of, and I suggest a lot of people do this. Try other cuisines, other foods. So I was at a Brazilian cafe, kind of a Brazilian kitchen, and they had collard greens. I was amazed. They got collard greens, and they cut them really thin, just like this, and it was bright green. It was delicious, and it had a little chew to it, and it made me feel a whole lot better. So
you want to keep those nutrients, and the way you do that is to cook it fast and not overcook it.
right.
All right, so very good. We will have tasting of this recipe out front. We have one more that we're going to make, and you can again find both of these recipes out on the table for Food RX. And we're going to switch gears a little bit because we also love our cornbread stuffing, right? We got that day-old cornbread that we left out the night before, and we cooked our turkey or our chicken, and now we've drained off all that fat. Right?
Flavor.
Yeah.
We're gonna put all that flavor on the cornbread. But diabetes, again, as I said, is very prevalent in our community, and we have to find a way to allow people to enjoy their food, have good food, and not do harm to themselves, not eat something that's going to raise their blood sugar so high that high blood sugar is very dangerous. It can cause a lot of problems and complications associated with diabetes or kidney disease, blindness, neuropathy, poor wound healing. We have to get diabetes under control. And we can do that with food, right? So,
is diabetes reversible? Yes.
Well, we don't use the word reversible, but I will say this. In the Food Arts program, we've had 2 patients that I've worked with who, once learning about the diabetic diet and once we've taken a look at their overall diet, because we never want to remove a person's entire identity. And a lot of your identity is tied to the foods you ate as a kid, what your family eats when you get together. But what we can do is learn how to eat certain foods in certain portions, eat more plants. We know that people who eat more plants have lower blood sugar, lower body weight. So we have had 2 patients who, when we've tested their blood sugar about 6 months later after following the diabetic diet, there were no traces of diabetes found in their blood work. So technically, they are not diabetic. However, if they revert back to their prior lifestyle, the diabetes will return. So, but it is very possible to manage diabetes with only food. All right.
So,
moving on.
Yes.
We are going to do Maryland cauliflower stuffing. So instead of bread, we're using cauliflower.
Yes, yes. So, I'm really not a big fan of stuffing.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else.
But no, really bread. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not. Especially because of diabetes, because I could eat maybe 3 or 4 peanut butter dozen.
Yo!
It's just, it brings back so much nostalgia as a child. So that's kind of what happens when you eat so much in one sitting and overindulge, things happen, right? So I said, let's do a little spinning, right? So cauliflower stuffing came. Cauliflower is now in this whole trend. We got cauliflower crust.
We got cauliflower mashed potatoes.
Yeah. So,
cauliflower just has a lower glycemic index than bread does, right? So you can just eat more of it.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make our cauliflower stuffing. So we're gonna use some of the same ingredients we do for our regular stuffing at home, but we're gonna substitute the bread for cauliflower.
So it's gonna have the same flavor profile
Yes.
as traditional stuffing. It'll just be less carby.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So you can overindulge. You can have as much vegetables as you want.
You can eat as many vegetables as
I don't
you
think
want.
nobody's stopping.
No.
But you will get a satiety feeling a lot faster if you start with your veggies or protein and then you finish with carbs. So that's one of the biggest things is when we're eating, we want to eat to satiety. And if most people start with carbs, it takes a lot longer, and then you fill up a lot later, making you eat more food. So.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to start with a little bit of olive oil.
I gotta get some of that.
Yeah.
You got 3 bottles out there.
Okay. I'm not leaving home. I'm not leaving here without it.
So one thing about this recipe that I really, really love is that you can do whatever you feel is healthy for you. So if you don't want to add any extra virgin olive oil or any butter or anything, you can use avocado or coconut oil. So you can change it around what works best. And then for this recipe, it's not vegan. So
It's not, but it could be.
It could be.
It could be.
So whatever works healthy for you. So right now we got some half smoked. That's what makes it a little bit of Maryland style. So we got some half smokes in here.
And if you didn't want to use half smoke, you could use a vegan sausage, or you could just eliminate it.
Yeah. If you like chorizo for spice.
Yeah.
So
And I've had turkey chorizo, not pork chorizo. I've had turkey chorizo.
Can I ask a question about the oils though?
Yeah.
Does it really matter? I mean, I don't mean it like that. I know lard is a lot different than canola oil.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start talking about avocado oil and coconut oil, is it more the flavor that it has? What is
So mostly
and the
the
price?
Yeah, sometimes it's the price, but really when you're cooking, there's certain oils are designed for certain things. And when you're cooking on high heat, you want an oil with a high smoke point. So, because when the oil gets overheated, it actually is damaged. And then when you continue to eat damaged oil, it's not a good thing. So if you burn your oil, pour it out and start again, right? If your oil is smoking and the pan is almost on fire, you gotta get rid of that oil. Don't eat that.
So,
And
and another thing about it is, versus vegetable oil and your canola oil, avocados and olive oils and your coconut oils are minimally processed, okay? When you use vegetable oil, it's so processed, so it's not as good for you as these fats for you.
And some of them are expensive. I give it to you. Avocado oil is not inexpensive.
But I have something for that. When we change our lifestyle from going from fried foods to sauteed foods, you cut down the cost because you're not using a quart or half gallon of fried chicken.
Okay.
Now you're just sauteing and pan searing, so you just use a little bit. So you get you 1 liter, that'll last you a month and a half.
Yeah. I will say one thing about coconut. Coconut and palm oils, these are saturated fats. So even though they come from plants, those are the two oils that are actually saturated. So remember we talked about saturated fat. We want poly and monounsaturated. We try to minimize saturated fat. So coconut oil I know is having a moment and people use it for very specific things, but it is a saturated fat. That's why it's solid at room temperature. That's why when you pick it up, it'll hold sugar.
So now I'm going to start breaking down the cauliflower.
So you've got your sausage here.
Yes, and what I know we're not supposed to use the fat, but
Sometimes there's a little bit of flavor going on.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna give that to you.
So one thing, because we're also partnered with Hungry Harvest, correct?
Correct.
And the one thing that I love that they do in their boxes is, one, they give you a variety of vegetables and ingredients. Okay, so that way it won't get boring when it goes to vegetables. You have the different colors and you get the different minerals. And then also one of the things that they strive for you to do is utilize the entire vegetable as best as can. So cauliflower and broccoli, they have a stalk to them. Once you cut them out, most people discard them. There's things that you can do, like grate it and make it into a slaw, vinegar-based slaw or some sort, and it could be an accompaniment later on in the week.
Yeah, so if you're making grilled chicken sandwiches, maybe one day, save all the shredded slaws, just add a tiny little bit of sugar and some vinegar, let it marinate overnight. It's got a nice pickle flavor, so you get that sort of savory and that sort of, how would you call it? What would you call a slaw? What flavor is that?
Well, I mean, it depends on which way you go. Some
Sour.
Yeah.
I'd say sour.
Right.
Yeah, some acids, right? It's just a sort of balance.
And it's fermenting and sour things help you with probiotics.
Right, we were talking about that.
Yeah.
Now, what are you going to do here? You're going to just chop them into small pieces?
Yes, I'm going to chop them into little, smaller, manageable pieces,
Okay.
like you would do your stuffing.
So to sort of make it look crumbly. Can you just use your hands and just sort of break it apart?
Some of them you can, but cauliflower has a tough stalk to it. So.
And again, this is a cruciferous vegetable. Yeah, very good. So really high in fiber, both soluble and insoluble. So we hear a lot about oatmeal and having this soluble fiber helps bulk up the stool, right? So it makes elimination a lot smoother, a lot easier. But it also helps feed that good bacteria in the colon and in the gut. It's a lot of people say, "Oh, I juice." Well, if you juice and you squeeze all of the juice out of a fibrous vegetable, you throw away all the good fiber, which is what your gut bacteria need to thrive. So I always say, if you're going to juice, try not to throw the fiber away, try to maybe put it in a soup, or maybe you're making a spaghetti or something. Try to find a way to use the fiber, or just don't juice. It's okay to blend, but try not to juice.
So I'm still breaking this in.
And you're just going to use one head of cauliflower, and about how many do you think that, how much will that yield? That's serve 4?
That should serve about 4 to 5 people, depending on how hungry they are.
And so it looks like we've got a lot of dried ingredients for this. Some dried thyme, ground sage, and you can't really have stuffing without sage. Parsley, onion.
Yep, so dice up some onions real quick.
And for those of you in the kitchen who do a lot of cooking, if you notice how the chef just sort of rocks his knife back and forth on the cutting board, he never picks it up and puts it back down on the cutting board. That's the way to make sure that you don't chop your finger off. Is to just rock the knife across your cutting board. Never lift it up. I see a lot of people hold things in there like this, and then they do that. Don't do that.
So we got those dry spices, herbs.
Yeah.
You can use fresh if you like. So we'll sprinkle that on
So
there.
it's like sage. We've got some celery.
Yep, celery. We got thyme.
Yep. These are all things that I put in typical stuff.
A little poultry seasoning for people who want chicken flavor.
Garlic.
And garlic.
Okay.
All right, and then we're gonna just take this and get some more organic olive oil. All right, and then we're gonna just toss this.
Get in there. I thought you were gonna use your hands.
I was.
You know, these are God's utensils.
Yeah, don't not use them.
Yeah.
Bad things happen.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do is toss this all together. And then we're gonna thank you. She's like, man, I'm white. And we're gonna put this on a half roasting pan, or we can use at home a glass pan.
And you've already sprayed it with oil, so you don't really need to spray the pan. Good.
All right. So once you spread it out, you'll take it and roast it and put it in the oven.
What degree oven are we putting in? Looks like it says here 450.
Yes.
450.
Roast. And with the power of TV.
Oh, wow.
So once you bring it out, you're gonna want to toss it with a little bit of parsley. And for those who want to add a little moisture to it, you can, or add a little bit more fat or whatever, you can add a vegetable sage gravy. All right. So
I
that'll
think
get,
today I think that's what.
yes. So we get a little bit more moisture.
He got a little fancy today and made a sage gravy.
So with all that being said, anyone?
And just that fast. I mean, this roasts for about, how long? This has about 15 minutes.
Yeah, 15 minutes.
And then maybe another 15 minutes just to get it brown.
Yep.
But yeah, very good.
So anybody got any questions?
And these did not take long.
Thank you very much. I know I have a lot of friends who like to use Crisco. Where are we with that as the oil?
Oh, so Crisco is one of the things that's called a trans fat. It is one of the worst. It's like a plastic fat. So they've taken it and they've turned it from cis to trans. Without getting too technical, it is a plastic fat, and your body doesn't know what to do with it, and it will just stick. So no plastic fat. If it's a trans fat, if you're reading the label on packages, we are trying to get folks to stop eating trans fats. They are horrible. Yep. Coconut sugar, great. Date sugar, great.
All in moderation.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you can actually, it's not like refined white bleach sugar. So if you want to use sweeteners, there's always maple syrup, real maple syrup, not pancake syrup. And you can buy dry dates and soak them in a little bit of water, and then put them in a blender and make a date paste. Or you can use coconut sugar.
So you gave the stat earlier about 1 in 3 people have
Either pre-diabetic or diabetic.
So I'm that one.
Okay.
And what is concerning to me is I was in a room full of Black women and almost every one of us were diabetic. That's not the way it used to be. I mean, yes, folks used to have the sugar, because that's what we called it back in the day.
Right.
What's going on that everyone is turning up pre-diabetic or diabetic?
Yep, so that is one of the questions that drove us to create Food RX, because patients were living with this disease and not really understanding what it was or how to treat it, and how food was playing a major role in exacerbating the condition, right? Because Diabetes is directly tied to carbohydrates. If you eat carbohydrates, your blood sugar is going to go up. So, is there a genetic component to it? Sure. But there's also a lifestyle component to it, right? When we live in the same household, we're all eating the same things. If we're active, great, but sometimes we're living in households where there's no physical activity. We've gotten more sedentary, right? Most of your blood sugar is stored in your muscles. If you sit around all day, your muscles are not using this blood sugar. So you're just eating and eating, and the blood sugar is going up in your blood, and you're sitting there and you're not using the stored glucose. So it has no choice but to float around in your blood. Your pancreas is trying to clear it out. It's pumping out insulin, but it's got nowhere to go. So now your pancreas is tired, your blood sugar is high, and now they're talking about putting you on insulin. So we have to move more, and we have to watch the amount of carbohydrates that we eat. We just eat too many carbs.
So would that be the number one thing you would say if, you know, because I'm pretty active, dropped a bunch of weight, trying to figure out why I got diabetes all of a sudden. But would you say carbs is the number one reason?
Yeah, you gotta, there's a certain range you kind of need to stick to per meal. Okay. But you also need to do strength training. So a lot of people say, oh, well, I walk. Yeah. Well, you gotta strength train. You gotta pick up weights. You gotta do some squats, right? You gotta move the muscles that are holding on to the glucose.
Yeah, building muscle burns more sugar and more calories. So the more muscles you get, naturally, it's just gonna work. Your muscles are gonna work hard.
Yeah. And the more weight you can lose. One of the things that keeps you from being insulin sensitive is extra body fat. So the more fat you have in cells that are not fat cells, the more blocked insulin is to open up that cell and let glucose in. So if you can lose body fat and pull those fat pockets out of cells, you become more sensitive to the insulin you're already making.
And one thing I would like to add to the question the lady was asking is also our society, our living standard, as you mentioned. We tend to work a lot and don't have time to invest in prep of the vegetables. And when we're prepping food naturally, because you'll get all the nutrients you need, but we try to save time. And that's what our society is. We're going to work hard, and save time. And then we start buying ultra-processed food, which saves us time. But on the other end, it hinders our families, hinders the health. Now you're spending more money on health things and time to fix those things.
Make your meals.
Yes.
This man.
Put a cap full of vinegar.
I'm sorry.
A cap full of vinegar and your spaghetti will lower that blood sugar. It will lower your blood sugar.
You know, there are a lot of things out there that people use or say help lower their blood sugar. You know, the vinegar. Is it Goli? Who is the? Somebody has like a vinegar capsule or a gummy or something. But honestly, the best thing to do is eat a healthy diet, move more, get good rest. You know, try to reduce your amount of stress. That's what we know works.
Yeah, the best two things is low in carbs and exercise and strength training. That's the two best things you can do to lower carbs.
Smoked turkey wings, good or bad?
They're fine.
They're fine.
Yeah.
Protein is great. It helps with satiety, so you don't have to eat as much. Start with proteins and veggies, and then once you get to your carbs, you won't eat as much carbs. And then when you're strength training, your body needs protein and water and all those nutrients to build your muscles bigger.
So I think we're going to serve the samples. You guys can try what Chef Clarence has made for us today. Thank you so much, Chef Clarence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chef Clarence. Angela, this was incredible information. If y'all didn't learn nothing, I did. So get yourself some samples and remember that plants are really good for you.